Alrighty, what is good? I hope everybody is doing well. This is going to be the market review for today. Today is January 27th, and I kind of want to just go over a couple things kind of in regards to recent videos I've released, kind of some nuances that I probably did not touch on enough in those videos, as well as the trade I did take today. So first off, we are going to get into the trade that I took and then get into later setup. So setup I did take today is not something that I've really kind of publicly talked about because it's more discretion based, right? I would say today's definitely a little bit tougher. I mean, it's not easy to trade after a 1,000-point drop. There's really not a bunch of quality structure to really kind of navigate from, right? You don't have that super clean roadmap that usually you'll get from Asia and London session, et cetera, right? So this trade specifically, if we look over here, this box, this highlights essentially London range, okay? So when we got New York open right about here, you can see this 8:30 a.m. This is all CST, by the way. Just keep that in mind. I am CST time, so any times that I refer to will be that, right? Not Eastern time or anything. So right off open, immediately, there was a couple things I was looking at, right? I was looking at London range, seeing how we were respecting it. If you look right here, and this is something I usually keep my eye on because it is pretty powerful when we do run into a situation like this. When we have a relatively large London range, I will be keeping an eye on how that 50% is respected. It's a pretty prominent session, right? We need to kind of pay attention to it and see what it has done. So when I see price starting to violate the 50%, okay, I'm like, okay, more than likely with this violation, right? You can see if we drag this over how sensitive this area is, more than likely with this violation above the 50%, we're trading up above, right? There's really no respect to it. You can see we tap it here a couple times, revert back into the range, come back and mitigate some unmitigated candles. But when we get this close up above, that's my sign that more than likely we're going to be gravitating towards London high. So I want to put my focus on that and see what kind of setups I can engage in that are going to take me in that direction. So if we go up to the 15-minute chart from there, there's a couple things I want to note. If we go back over here, let's look at this. So at that exact moment, if we draw this over, what do we have? Okay, let me delete this really quick. What do we have? We have a big old 15-minute imbalance right here. So my main focus and my main thesis is along the premises of, and I talk about this a lot, accumulation, manipulation, distribution. A lot of times I'm going to be wanting to get in that manipulation phase to go up and catch that distribution higher towards price's intended target. So if we mark this out, let's go ahead and mark this out. Let's just put the money liquidity sign on it. And let's go back down to the 1 minute. Let's look at a couple things. And this just comes down to kind of screen time and really being able to kind of recognize what situation you're in and being able to adapt. I would say today was a huge test on people's ability to adapt is a better way to put it. Because like I said, it's kind of hard and it's kind of tough to trade after a 1,000-point drop in overnight session. It's not an easy thing to navigate, and you got to be able to adjust on spot with certain little things you got to be doing different, okay? Especially if you look at AM structure. There's not much there at that given moment. However, look at this, right? We have our 15-minute imbalance over here. Let me drag this over. We have our 15-minute imbalance. What do we see right here? What is all of this right here? Accumulation. This low right there is the start of that 15-minute imbalance, okay? What do we have resting in this 15-minute balance? Low, liquidity. This deviation from the range right here, if I drag this over, is our what phase? Manipulation. How do we know that, right? What are we coming back to tap into? A key POI. We have a big 15-minute balance, and the function of that is what? To put in a new high. So we kind of have several things on side, right? We've closed above London 50% range. We're expecting the high to be the draw. We have a 15-minute POI, that being an imbalance, with its function ultimately being what? Putting in a new high. So when we see that, I was comfortable enough with taking a blind limit. I believe I took it, I want to say, I think it was at the 50% of this wick, okay? That's how comfortable I was with doing this. Even with questionable movement overnight, this is why it's important to be able to recognize certain situations and scenarios that the market presents to you and being able to adapt, as I've said multiple times, okay? So we see this deviation from the range. This is where your focus should be. This is where you're wanting to engage. There's two things you could do. You could blind limit this low, taking the sweep of that. What are we also rebalancing at that same exact moment? On lower time frame, what is this going to be? 5-second chart? That's a zone. What do we come down and do? We take that low, tap the 50% of it. We even come mitigate this wick right here, drag this over, tap into that wick. So we have several key confluences on our side. Realistically, in this exact scenario, I did not want to see this low, even possibly traded below. I wanted to see this hold and us pivot from there, right? We're in that manipulation phase down there, which following that is what? Distribution. So a couple entries that you could have taken. Like I said, you could have either taken that low on that mitigation of this little pocket of structure, or you could have waited for a little bit safer of an entry, which would be what, right? We have our 1 minute CSS, right? We have a close below down here and a close above. We drag this over. What can you do, right? You could either take the 30%, or you could take a 1 minute dream model out of this, right? There's several different key kind of possible entry functions here, right? Let's get a dream model off of this. Look, we come up, close above. What do? We come back, tap the 30, close back up above it. Where can we place our stop? There, boom, boom, right? Simple little process. And you can see we do drag up to here. And I want to show you something really cool. Let's zoom out a little bit. Let's go up to the hourly chart. And this is how you should be using higher time frame meat levels. Let's delete this really, really quick. So if we go back over here, you'll see a couple things. If we drag from that high down to this low, total range. Go to yeet. Wait, no, it wasn't this. I don't remember exactly what it was. There was a really, really key. Let me zoom out a little bit. I think it was this. Yeah. Look how beautiful this is. Look how beautiful this is. If I can get it, because it's super accurate. Okay, look at this. What are we in at this exact moment? Okay, from this high to this low, if we measure this, what is this? A higher time frame meat plan. This, I've talked about this multiple times. This is how I use levels. For example, up here, these would be key levels for me, right? When we trade up here, I would be expecting some sort of pivot in the market on a higher time frame basis. Now, these lines down here, what is this, right? We have the 4.1, the 0.41, and the 0.295. If we go down to a lower time frame chart, look at this. Look how accurate this is. These can be used for intraday pivot levels. And I want to talk about a couple things that I also used in terms of bias and what my expectation was for this, okay? A lot of times, and you'll see this if you go back test on your charts. You'll see exactly what I'm talking about. When we close back above that 0.295 level, that's going to be an area of support, okay? That's a sign and an indication that we are more than likely going to be going where? Back up to that 0.41, playing those kind of internal ranges like I've talked about before, scalping the 50, 30, 70, okay? So we see that first close above, where? Right here, right after open. You can see we respect this and trade back away from it, okay? Carrying that thesis, what can we possibly expect to be the next draw? That 0.295 or the 0.41 right up here, which lines up with what? What do we have over here? This is how you know you're anchoring off of important stuff, is when they line up with very key areas. We have London high, a session high. That is only, in this volatility, 1.5 points off. You think that's random? It's not. It's not random at all. You can't randomize that. Like, there's functions behind this, and you just need to be able to recognize them, okay? So if we look at that, using this as a key level, look how accurate this pivot is. That's the beautiful thing about GB. I think I said higher time frame yeet. GB model. Not to confuse you. Yeet's kind of an inside thing. Don't worry about it. It's GB. GB. Right? So if we look at that, what do we see? Price pivots from there. Okay. Now I want to talk about a couple things like I talked about in the video. Usually, what am I wanting to see? Because I know probably some people log this after watching my video last night. What do we see right here? Now, importantly, what have we taken? Session high, okay? That's not really a huge factor for me, but it's something to note as a possible thing that could be against you in this possible expected move. Now, if we look at this, what do we see, right? We see a beautiful high. We close up above. We have a really good established low. What can we do? Now, I don't think if we go up to the 15-minute chart, there was not a 15-minute CSS here, right? Obviously, there was no closure below a previous candle on a down close basis. All we had was a close up above. However, there was one on what? The 5-minute chart, okay? So maybe if you're taking a fractal sequence, aside from the 15-minute and the 1 minute that I talked about, if we go back down here, I want to talk about something important, okay? Two things here. What do we have? We have validated structure, right? We could possibly say we have 5-minute CSS. We're going to use that as confluence for this as a quality anchor point. What do we not have in this whole leg up? What is this? One-sided. One-sided moves usually do not hold. There's no liquidity in here. So your stop is going to be liquidity. If we look down here, this is the really only low in that whole entire leg up within the zone, right? You could be nitpicky and say we have some lows up here. That's not my focus. My focus is at or below the 50% for longs, or at or above the 50% for shorts. Very key stuff, okay? So a couple other things I want to note, because I'm going to go over a yeet in PM session. Was it? Yeah, it was a yeet on ES, or a GB. Sorry, I'm going to confuse a lot of people. GB on ES, and I'll go over that. It was a break-even trade for PM. But this reaction right here is not something you want to see. Yeet, this is not something that should happen at yeet. Now, I'm not saying that every time you see this, it should scare you out of a trade, but more times than not, and you'll see this back testing, yeet should be giving reactions like this. You should see a candle, tap the first level, a candle, tap the bottom level, maybe tapping the bottom level down here, or that midpoint I meant, maybe topping that bottom one, and then we should see an immediate pivot, or maybe just a couple candles. Maybe just a couple candles. It's a very sensitive area. If we trade through it and close below and start to consolidate, that is not the best signature to see. There's been multiple times where I've taken a setup and I've seen this exact signature and I get out of the trade because I know it's not a high probable signature. If price does not come back and tap that area and immediately pivot, it's not really something I want to engage in. GB should be almost a V-shaped recovery for the most part. I'll tell you that right now. So with that established, we can go into some other setups. I do believe there was a good 5 minutes kind of on that perm because there really wasn't any quality 15-minute ones until later in the session. You'll see one. Okay, we do. I want to check and make sure that this structure is validated on the lower time frame. We have a close above, we have a close below. That's on the 5-minute chart. Okay, that structure right there is not validated. Okay, so we ignore that. Okay, now if we go back over here, go back to it. Here, at that same exact moment, okay, we come up, we mitigate that CSS. Now we have another CSS, right? We have a close above, close below. Okay. Here, go down to the 1-minute chart. Okay, now we have something to anchor off of. Okay, we have our 5-minute CSS. We can drag it from here to here. Over here. Now, me personally, and I'll say this because I get nitpicky about this, is my anchor would have been this over here. Reason being is this did not close below. So this closure right here, underneath this low here, would deem this high as protected. This could be internal structure, right? Now, that's going to be kind of nitpicky because they aren't always this sloppy, but if you really want to know how I would have been anchoring off of this, that's how. It would have been that, right? Now, if we look at this, what do we have, okay? If we measure from here to here, what do we have? The zone. Above the 50%, what do we have? We have a high. We have liquidity. We're resting right there. So realistically, the function of this, we should sweep this and go immediately down. Taking that entry at that midpoint, what do we see happen here? We get that first sweep, maybe get some early sellers to come in. What do? We come up, run their stops, tap that key level. This is why key levels are important. Tap that key level and do what? Go to low. This is a reaction you should be looking for. This is how yeet should be. GB. I keep mixing it. I'm sorry. GB. This is how it should be. It should not be under kind of any other aspect. This is the reaction you want to see there. If I don't see a reaction like this within 5 or so candles, see ya. I'm pulling my TP down to break even and getting the hell out of that. It's just not something I want to engage in. So using that aspect, I want to go over a couple things really quick. I want to go through the 15-minute chart really quick. I want to talk about this over here. Now, mechanically speaking, this, I would say, is probably a pretty good setup. Now, it's pretty avoidable with just a little bit of discretion. And I want to bump down to this because we do have a quality 15-minute. We even have a sweep here. You can see we come up, we have failed to close there, return back into the range. But if we go down to a 1-minute chart, here, relatively one-sided, but, right, if we look at this from this perspective, we do have a high there. This does give some sort of reaction. Does it go to TP? No, right? But the reason I had avoided this was kind of a couple of reasons. This was a pretty important low that we did sweep, right? We're in the discount of the range. What do I mean by that? If we measure this total range from this high to this low over here, down to this low, what is this? This is all in the discount of the range. Price is going to want to do what? Rebalance to a premium. Logically speaking, you should be looking for some sort of entry from this high down to this low up in this area. That's going to be the key higher probable area, right? And this is why it's important to just understand premium and discount. It's a super simple aspect. Try not to sell in a discount. Try to sell in a premium. Try to buy in a discount. Try not to buy in a premium, right? Just kind of a simple little aspect. But mechanically speaking, right, I would deem this a pretty good setup. We have the 50-minute CSS. We have a sweep, right? Good displacement. We have a high resting right there. Had I not have market experience or just wanted to just kind of free trade, I probably would have taken this, right? So if you took a loser on this, I really wouldn't be too mad about it. It's just kind of like a plain Jane loser. Like I said, avoidable, yes. But quality setup still, yes, right? I want to go over to the ES trade. Let's go over to ES really quick. I believe it was right here. So a couple things. It was down from here up to here. Okay. I want to measure, and I always keep an ES chart up. And we'll go up to the 15-minute and go back over to this. So here on the 15-minute, it's pretty sloppy, but we do have a CSS, right? This is our most recent break of structure, so the close up above that. We even get a close above this right up here. Okay. Beautiful, beautiful little thing. So if we go back down to the 1-minute chart, and you could have, here's the beautiful thing, right? I was not, I don't believe I was on the charts, or I was just now getting on the charts when we came up here and tapped this. This would have been a pretty good short right down here. I believe at that time, ES or NQ was taking some sort of internal high. But look at this, right? I'll get into this in a second, but what do we have? We have a close below this low, we have a close above, nice little flip ski, coming down to mitigate some structure down here, right? Big accumulation range, similar to what I talked about in the beginning of the video. Where's our deviation from the range? Why do we know that's our deviation from the range? What is it doing? It's mitigating proper area. Very important thing. This is why you need to have context behind certain things, right? Some people will see this, oh, this is a breakout, we're going to the highs. Nope. No. Negative. We're coming to rebalance. GB. Send it lower. Okay. So a couple things. Like I said, I ended up taking this long over here because I believe NQ failed to close above this high, but ES did. So I was fine with that. This should have been protected on ES, and it was, right? We obviously didn't come down to this low where my stop was, whereas NQ did end up running this low. Okay. So the reason I had got out of this trade, and I'm glad I did, even though it went to TP, this is not stuff I want to sit through, even remotely. I favor efficiency. That's my main focus and price. Efficiency. If I don't get efficiency, I don't want to be a part of it. Okay. So this one right here. Okay. What do we see? Right. Price trades through it, closes below. What do we see? Chop. Some short expansion, revert back into the range, chop, and then expansion. This is not something I want to engage in, even remotely. It may suit you, right? But me personally, I don't want to. This actually would have been a break even had I had waited till my original break even, which was this devil's mark right up here, this wickless candle. It would have came up there, wicked that, reverted right back. This is why I don't want to engage in inefficient markets. Okay? If we're not expanding off of my areas, I don't want to be a part of it. Okay? That's just a simple little personal thing. I'm not saying you need to be doing that, right? If you just want to be able to catch a piece of it and can recognize a couple few things, by all means, stick with the setup. But for that example, this is one I'm glad I got out of, even though it went to TP. This is, like I said, I don't want the headache from this at all. These kind of signatures I don't like to see. I want to see a wick tap into that area and an immediate return, which we don't get there. I feel like there's a couple things. I believe, let's go back over to NQ. I believe there was a dream model. Yeah, there was a dream model over here. Dream model long. After we had taken this low, right over here, get some dream model stuff in. Okay. Taking this low over here. ES did not. You could say SMT, whatever, right? If we measure from here to here, down to this low, that's where our CSS is. Why is our CSS there, right? Oop, did not want to do that. Close below, close above, valid low. What do? Come back, tap the 30. Where can we take our entry? Buy a stop above that candle. Boom. What can we target? We can target a 1R. Target the highs. Kind of based around the premise of what ES is doing. But at the same exact moment, what can we view from this? We're in a discount, right? We're coming to rebalance this area. We've taken this low. What are we doing? What is this? Accumulation, manipulation. Where did that dream model get you in? On the manipulation leg. What do you catch? The distribution leg. Now on top of that, right, if we throw in some other stuff that I've talked about multiple times, boom, 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 boom. Where do we get a retrace? -1, -1.5, expand up to the -2. You could be exiting here or here, whatever lines up with your final draw, which in this instance, if we look at the extreme high, look how perfectly aligned this is. And you think this is random. It's not. Perfectly aligned with that -2.5, that high over there. What do we still have over here? Right up above it. And this is one thing I like to look for a lot in price is when I'm trying to figure out where I want to take my position to, I always look for it's either highs or lows right below or above unmitigated candles, unmitigated areas, unmitigated GB. You know what I mean? So if you're really wanting to squeeze as much out of your trade as you can, I would look for that. Absolutely, for sure. And I believe that is going to do it for today's review. And yeah, I think that's going to be it for today. Quite a bit to cover. That was a pretty long review video. Definitely longer than normal, but I feel like it's some important stuff to talk about. On top of liquidity basis, at or near for the GB entry, I would like to see some consolidation. Could be consolidation and then a sweep in a low, etc. But really consolidation, because there's a lot of volume there, right? Or some sort of liquidity point. Those are going to be my main focus and my main objective, and what I'm looking for. Basically, it's just specific signatures I'm looking for in price. And I mean, they're very high probable signatures and important things to keep note of. So with that being said, this is going to be the review for today. I'm going to get this out as quick as I can. And I hope you all have a blessed evening, and I will talk to you all in the morning. Peace.